Welcome to Divyavani's Word of God program. Last week we followed Paul, his journey through especially those areas that are described in Acts chapter 14 and 15. Today we continue on the same trend, moving into Acts chapter 16 and 17, where Paul reaches the main cities of Greece, and I will give some details about those cities. Last week, our description gave Paul reaching Athens, and I started speaking about Athens. I'll continue first of all with that. First of all, keep the geography in your mind. Greece is a number of islands, and they are not united. At that time, it was not a single country. Each city or each island was an independent country, and of those independent countries or independent islands, Athens was the most important one. Paul reached Athens. Paul was surprised at the constructions in Athens. Athens was already known as a city of intellectuals. The proverb is, if you walk along the streets of Athens, whoever you meet will be either a god or a philosopher, no ordinary people. And there is a reason for that. All the intellectuals in the whole world would gather at Athens. Every one of them had the possibility of improving their knowledge. All the philosophers, scientists, mathematicians, astronomers, politicians, and whatever you can think of. If you want to improve your knowledge, go to Athens. That was the time, at the way the people looked at Athens, and all their conversation was about their subjects. The philosophers would gather somewhere and they will discuss philosophy. The astronomers gather somewhere, they will discuss astronomy. And that's the way they improved their knowledge. So, to such a city, Paul came. Athens itself has a very long history. There are various artifacts from already 3500 BC. There are historians saying the city was existing, inhabited already in 5000 BC. So, one of the oldest city that has a certain amount of culture, and that culture is seen. That is the type of city that Paul reached. Paul reached, and in the Acts there is a very interesting mention about Paul discussing with the Epicureans and the Stoics. I will very briefly give what their philosophy is. The Epicureans was the followers of a man called Epicurus, who lived from 342 BC to 271 BC. His philosophy was a kind of a hedonistic teaching. His teaching was, we are here on this earth to enjoy, to be happy. So, do whatever you want, seek pleasure. And whatever pleasure you enjoy, be happy with that. There is no afterlife. The life ends with death. There is nothing more beyond that. Man's life, he taught, is made miserable by two fears. One is the fear of the gods, and the other one is the fear of death. Both of them you must resist, because there is nothing after death and there are no gods interested in you. So just enjoy your life, and when it is time for you to die, you will die. That's the end of your life. That is the type of teachings Epicurus gave, and he also followed the atomism of Democritus. The atomism was existing already, it was popular. The philosophy of atomism says that everything in this world is composed of atoms. Infinite number of atoms are there all over the atmosphere, and they keep falling from up down, and now and then maybe they are little diverted, and then there will be a clash between the atoms, and they come together and they produce what is called material things. So the whole world is made of atoms. Remember, already in the 4th century BC, this man said everything is made of atoms, and atoms are indestructible. They are what make everything in this world, material and immaterial. They said even the gods are made of atoms. They are the fine atoms. Our atoms are little rough, let us say. So the fine atoms will compose God. And where are the gods? They are between the various worlds. Let us say between the earth and the moon and so on, there is a gap. That space is occupied by the gods that are made of atoms. And these gods are least bothered about us. We don't need to be afraid of them. They live their lives. Let us live our lives. And let us enjoy this life. And when it is time for us to go, go. That's the end of everything. Death is the end of everything. There is no life after death, and therefore you don't need to worry about it. Pleasure is the greatest good of man. Enjoy your life. Epicureanism actually then slowly spread also to Rome. It was taught in Rome by a philosopher called Lucretius, who lived in 98 BC to 55 BC. So in Rome also Epicureanism spread, and that was popular at least in one section of the people, because the philosophy was very simple. You don't have to worry about afterlife, just enjoy, be happy, eat and drink, have all the pleasures possible, and that's the end of your life. That is Epicureanism. And some Epicureans met Paul, and we don't know what they discussed. It's not there in the Acts, but we can imagine they must have argued with Paul. There is no point in thinking about a life after death and so on. We can only guess, but they had a discussion with Paul. That is the Epicureans. The other group that met Paul is called Stoics. Stoics have another type of philosophy. Stoics are a kind of a very strict people with their own lives. They were influential already from 300 BC. And they got this name Stoics because they used to gather at a place, a hall of columns. And in Greek, the columns are called stova. So they became Stoics. In other words, they are the people who gather at stova, at the columns. They used to gather there, discuss, and that is the way their philosophy grew, spread. Their teaching was mainly about the ethical life of man. They insisted that there is something that we have to follow, and even if it is hard, we must follow. They had many great philosophers among them. The Stoics are divided into three groups: the early Stoics, the mid Stoics, and the later Stoics. The Stoics emphasized ethical life, and whatever difficulties you have, learn to accept the difficulties, bear it patiently. We'll have a break and we'll continue with the Stoics.
Yeah.